if it has issues with the DGF, then we know and be able to defend our DGF as a partner. I beg to move.
Thank you very much. That's a good point as well. Defending defenders. Thank you. That's to Professor.
Thank you so much, Sheila, and Team Coalition for such a wonderful organization. It's a toll on excellence that I'm seeing here. To Professor, I'm sorry the questions have to come to you because you provoked us.
My name is?
My name is, I was coming to that. My name is Tarema Albert. I'm the Executive Director for Local Sustainable Communities Organization, LOSCO, based in Kegezi, in Kabale. I'm a member of National Coalition for Human Rights Defenders. Professor, shrinking space, so what? Because we do account to the government, we submit our annual returns to the NGO Bureau, to FIA, to the district monitoring committee, but we still continue to see the power coming heavy on us, putting us down. What do you think the NGO Bureau, whose mandate is to strengthen and empower the NGOs, can do instead of pouring water on the NGOs, come out to empower them? Number two, CSOs complement the work of the government, much as we act in many cases as watchdogs to what the government does in as far as service delivery is concerned. And we are here talking about the future. Do you see the government making any effort to establish a partnership with CSOs for internal growth? Because through compliance clinics that have been conducted through a number of NGOs, this has played a greater role in improving our internal operating systems. So do you see any effort by the government establishing a partnership? We know there is a triple P, but do we also see something coming out for the CSOs? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Albert, on the role of the NGO Bureau in supporting the sector. I'll turn it over to you. Any of the panelists can take it first in terms of response.
Okay, maybe I'll go first. Jovia said something about the coalition being an arbiter. Jovia, I just want to say that this issue has been discussed in several groups. You know, now, I was talking earlier about working differently. I think in the CSO, in the NGO fraternity, we have to learn how to work differently since our informal spaces are also being closed. Now, in some of those informal discussions that we've been having with different actors, some of the discussions that have come up is, you know, similar to what you're saying. Can some of the networks take lead, take charge? In fact, I think we have a vacuum now in terms of leadership. I feel the vacuum. I don't know if you don't feel the vacuum. I'm now talking about the general NGO sphere of operation. I feel there's a vacuum, and I think it is very important that a strong network steps into that space. And why am I talking of a network? I think it is easier to counter an oppressive system when you're many more together than when you're alone. So yes, of course, the coalition could step into that space and take advantage of that space. The other thing that we have been discussing is we have a wealth of experience within the NGO sector. Conflict management, and now that kind of situation, like for HearingNet, it was a mix of so many things. It was a mix of mismanagement. It was also a mix of, conflict resolution. Now, conflict resolution requires, for you to have an arbiter, you know, the conflicting parties must trust the person who's coming as an arbiter. You know, the arbiter must be really concerned, must be prepared to give time one of the things that I noted when I talked to a few leaders then to come and intervene in the hearing aid issue was that time was a real constraint, because a lot of us are heads of other organizations. We have the donors on our case, they want reports, there are all these meetings, there is so much going on. So who is willing to put aside time? Because conflict resolution takes a lot of time. You must be prepared to sit for long hours and many days and many months going over the same issues. So an arbiter needs to have that time, needs to be sufficiently interested, but then also needs to have that, Professor talked of, what was the term you used? Credibility. You need to have the credibility, legitimacy. People must trust that you are not the type who's going to go and make announcements everywhere about, the issue that has been discussed. So this is something that, we discussed and said it could be interesting to identify some in the CSO fraternity, in the NGO fraternity, who could actually take this role. And it could be people who are retiring, like Professor, who will probably have more time available, to participate in this if he's trusted. It could be others. So, but I think it is urgent that we really find people who are trusted and who can help us as arbiter in some of these issues. Really, really important. But it is also something as simple as, okay, you're head of this organization. You have been you have been said to have mismanaged. Who can talk to, and you are refusing to step aside? Can there be people who can just encourage you to step aside and say, okay, for the good of this organization, for the good of the work we're doing, please step aside? It's that kind of thing which sometimes it takes more than just what we see on the surface, and it takes a lot of work. So I think we really need that kind of intervention in the fraternity. I also wanted to just say something about what Professor Damba from Chibuku said, something about funding. Now, funding is probably one of the most interesting sphere to be in, because nothing is straightforward. You can't say because I am an NGO, I am properly registered, I have legitimacy, I am accountable. That alone does not necessarily get you resources that you need to do work. There are other things you need. You need visibility, for example. Of course, credibility is so important. Of course, you have to have a good mission, vision. You need to already start doing work. You can't sit and expect that someone will give you the first monies that will launch you into that space. And I know many of us in this room have really been sacrificing, using your own resources to get work going. Keep going, but make your work visible. Let people, now we have social media. Get your work out there. Let people see what you're doing. Interact. Go into the district offices. Let the local government people know what you're doing. And these forums are also very interesting. Network. Now more and more people are going into coalitions. Yeah. So as you're networking, you might identify a like-minded organization that you can work with. And if a call comes up, Her Excellency the Ambassador just announced that there is a call that's come up, the Netherlands Embassy. Network. Find 2 or 3 of you who can come in and put in a really strong proposal. Go, make the best bid there and keep trying. You cannot give up trying. But I also want to say that out of everything that we've talked about, we also need to take care about ourselves as NGO leaders and human rights defenders. It's something I wanted to talk about that I didn't talk about. Self-care is so important. You need to be standing upright and healthy to be able to run around and do all the work that you're doing. Organizations need to invest in self-care of the staff. You need to lobby your donors. Let them put aside some resources, even as they're giving you money for human rights defending. Can they give you a little basket there where you can just go and renew yourselves and take care of yourself, because that is so important. And Sebantu said something about why we are quiet when DGF has been closed. I think Professor mentioned that the context is closing on us. It's not just us, the NGO those in the CSO fraternity. It's also the donors. The donors are also being gagged. They can't just go and begin to make statements. Now, we can see if DGF can be closed, anyone else can be closed. The thing for me is how we reorganize ourselves. And I said this earlier, we need to now work differently. Even our loose coalitions are now illegal. We can't work in a loose coalition. How else do we work? And I don't think we should do things in hiding, because I don't think we're doing anything wrong. I don't think we are, trying to overthrow the government or anything. So I think we can still find good ways of working differently, but I think it's important that we are always ahead of those who really want to bring our downfall. I know also there are all these fears we have, there's so many fears that we have, and it's also good that we have spaces, very safe spaces, where we can discuss these fears and see how to plan, strategize to overcome them. We can't get tired of strategizing to overcome oppression, because we need to continue doing the work that the good work that we're doing.
Thank you. Thank you, Anna. Thank you very much. Wellness, 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 doing things differently. Professor, your take.
Thank you. Thank you, the audience. And thank you, the audience. I don't want to claim that I do have answers to your questions. I think this was a provoking presentation or discussion where we should share ideas provoked from one angle, but not that I have answers to the questions. My contribution is one, but you can go ahead and discuss these issues, but you have to aggregate them finally through an institutional arrangement like now, this forum, the coalition. But otherwise, I don't have a correct line, as you know. Now, there were questions about self-regulation and how it can be actualized, because those who have attempted sometimes have failed. But I must say here that there is an irony. You know that word irony or paradox? An irony, something is negative but can cause something positive. You know, like unity, when you even look at theories of coalitions or cooperation, sometimes cooperation arises out of threats. Even countries have existed sometimes out of threats. You know, countries, those who did Southern African history, Lesotho and Eswatini now, Swaziland, they were formed out of threats by the Zulu. Or even Europe has now become more united because of Putin. So, this is an opportune moment for making attempts or reforming and come together, because there are very many threats now. If they can threaten, the state can threaten a fund as powerful as DGF. If it can close 54 NGOs and beat some other people, including the media. I saw the media actually this week also talking about the same issue like we are talking about in terms of how they can survive in the next generations, their rights and all that. So I think this is an opportune moment which you should seize and discuss these issues. I don't have answers, but I think the principle of self-regulation is very important. There have been attempts before, but that doesn't mean that they cannot be revived. But first of all, you have to have principles. Some people can come up with principles that any NGO or every civil society organization should follow and agree upon them. The principles, the values that every NGO must have. Then you can set up the rules as to how you can organize yourselves under self-regulation. But the principle is self-regulation. If you have to survive, if you have to have a relevant future. To use the social capital concept again, they say social capital has got 3 forms. There is bonding, bridging, and linking social capital. Now, you must first have strong bonds, you who are similar. Like now, this Human Rights Defenders Coalition, you have to bond. But after bonding, you can now bridge the cooperation between you and other similar organizations, either as NGOs or the media or trade unions or law or even professional associations. You remember how strong the professional association did to remove the dictatorship of Bashir? We lack coordination, networking. We actually lack social capital as the non-state actors. So it is time now we thought about having bridging social capital. We start with the bonds between those who are similar, then you bridge, because those you are bridging with have similar challenges. The media have similar challenges. The professional associations have similar challenges. You heard the medical profession, how they are threatened, even the law society. So you create a bridge. After creating the bridge, you can now have a link, linking social capital. Can we link with similar associations in the East African community so that we have a regional border strength? Can we link even with international similar organizations so that we can also have that one? What about the continental level? Once we do that, we have social capital, networking, organizing. Let's now have the principle of self-regulation, but also the principle of social capital. Organizing at bonding level, at bridging level, and at linking level, we shall be strong. They will not take us for granted. The states and the markets will not take us for granted. They have taken us for granted because we have organized autonomously, individually as an organization or even individuals, and professionally, and we tend to be careerists. And yet civil society advocacy is not about career. It is about activism. And we don't have activists here. I'll give you an example. One time, some time back, I don't know whether 10 years ago, I told you I've been in the NGO world for some time. You remember the WTO, the World Trade Organization, a very strong force that has been used to regulate the world in favor of the rich, but it is normally opposed. So whenever they went to Seattle in the USA, they were actually barricaded to the extent that those people who are outside threatened those who are inside. And now when they meet, the WTO meetings, whether in South Korea, whether wherever, they hide, literally. But that hiding means a statement goes where what they are deciding is even influenced from outside. Now look at this challenge. Whenever the Director General of the World Trade Organization is visiting a country, they have actually to look for ways and means of how he will move from the airport to the hotel where he's going to sleep. Because people are aware that he's coming and they are trying to do something to influence the WTO. Now, there is a time when the Director General of the World Trade Organization came here in Uganda. Even NGOs and other societies did not know. We happened to know in Seattle because we deal with trade issues. And when we addressed him at conference center, we actually told him that he's lucky. Here, the population is not aware and organized. We are even addressing in international conference center. We should have met you at Entebbe International Airport, and that's when the message would have gone. So we are not activists, we are claiming. We are not advocates, we are claiming. We should become, we should grow old, we should leave these conditioned offices, we should go in the public space. As long as we are remaining in conditioned rooms and not going in the public space, they will still shrink us, whether we like it or not. So we should have to organize To defend rights, you have to be organized. Individually, they will clobber you. Individually, you will not have a voice, but a coalition will have a voice. Question on funding, that is tricky. That is very tricky. Maybe she's in that area. She could explain more. She has tried to explain. But on the other hand, legitimacy and credibility I talked about is very important. Start to be legitimate and credible and in the public sphere. Then by the time you ask for funding, people know you. One way or the other, they will know you. Make sure that you are not lost. Make sure that you ask yourself this question. If you are not there, what would Ugandans lose? What would the people in your community miss, assuming you are not there? Assuming Uganda Coalition of Human Rights Defenders was not there, would Ugandans miss you? Would people be there and say, hey, by the way, we are finished now, the defenders are not there. But if you can disappear and nobody will feel you, then you are not very relevant. You have to ask yourself that question, whether people will miss you when you are not there. If the people can miss you when you are not there, sometimes when you ask for funding, you are likely to get it. Now there is opportunity, even having your organization, small as it is, as you are beginning, you can have a Facebook account, a Twitter account, and other accounts, and always send their messages related to your organization. People will read them, and they will know that you are there. When you are asking for funding, and you say, we are so and so, you'll find her saying, hey, by the way, I have been seeing what you Facebook. But if you have never been there, or even in your organization, in your locality, you have never been heard, the RDC doesn't know you, the LC5 chairman doesn't know you, or doesn't feel you. He doesn't have to know you personally, but he should feel you, that you are there. And what you are doing is serious, you are likely to get funding. But that is not all. I know the problems of funding are very complicated, and our friends, these ones, can give you very many ways, very many hurdles, requirements of writing like this, results-oriented. That results-oriented, by the way, I have a problem with it, because it normally looks at quantitative indicators, but they are qualitative indicators that are not easy to capture as results. And as NGOs, our results are long-term. Are long-term, they can even be 20 years from now. But anyway, they are also necessary because you can be H1 and claim that you are doing something when actually you are doing nothing. That's where they catch us, where they want the results in quantitative terms. You need legitimacy and credibility. Do you know how Moi faced it difficult when he wanted to remain in power in Kenya? Civil society opened that space in Kenya. Actually, it was not political parties as such. Those he had clobbered them, he had arrested them, he had done everything. Civil society stood its ground. So was Kamuzi Banda in Malawi. Civil society did something there and opened political space in Zambia, in Malawi. Even in Zambia, it was trade unions. In Kenya, it was civil society. In Uganda, it is what? You want us to go back to the bush? We have to do something. That, the Kasese person, I have already, I think, partly answered the question of social capital. As for DGF, DGF is an international organization that is foreign affairs issues, but you can still talk about them, but you may not do much. But you need to have a voice in the public sphere. Where is the voice in the public sphere? They will call you all sorts of names. Don't mind about them. They will say you are agents of foreign interests, isn't it? Because you are getting funding from outside. You ask them, is the government not getting funding from outside? Besides that, isn't it crying for these investors, these VC people? Eh? Why are you crying that you want investors to come, investors, and they from outside? Please, when they hit you back, you push back. If you don't push back, they will push you until you get into the bedroom. So we need social capital, we need networking, bonding, bridging, and linking, even internationally. Even international voice is very important. You don't be threatened that when you link with international people, you'll be an agent of imperialism. They are also linking. They get aid, even military aid. Government gets even military aid from outside. And they will say, you are killing this, the sovereignty. What about them? If you are going to invite foreign investors and they take the airport almost, they take the highways to Entebbe, is that sovereignty? So we need to link outside also. CSOs complement in service delivery, yes, especially when they are service delivery NGOs, but when they are advocates, they don't complement. they are actually counterbalancing, rather than complementing if you are an advocacy civil society organization. Of course, in the process, we shall meet challenges. There are gongos. Do you know gongos? Among us, there are gongos. Government NGOs, they are there, they will try to undermine you, but you cannot run away from challenges. If you want to run away from challenges and you think being in the public space is smooth, is Holy Communion, then you get off the NGO world. You can't be human rights defenders and you say, I will fear to meet gongos. There will be gongos, you can identify them, isolate them, and see how to work within this sphere or landscape or atmosphere, because you can't do much. One way or the other, world over, there will always be gongos, the government NGOs, which are formed to undermine the other advocates in the group. But otherwise, I will conclude by saying that once we form strong social capital, social bonds, linking, bridging, we shall be relevant. As we talk now, we are semi-irrelevant because we have been taken for granted. We have been taken for granted not because we are not aware. We in the NGOs are always awareness creation, awareness creation. We need to go beyond awareness creation. It's not because people are ignorant. Yes, there is need awareness and sensitization, but there is also need for action. And you cannot have action as an individual, you will be clobbered. You have to form social capital. Can we embark on social capital? Can our development partners or donors now start funding that program of social capital creation? I know they do because that's why they fund networks, but they need to fund deliberately a way of creating a network between NGOs, other civil society organizations, the academia organizations, the professional associations, the trade unions, the cultural associations, the CBOs. All these need a wider coalition so that we become strong and have relevance in the public sphere, in policy making, in human rights defense. Otherwise, individually, singularly, as an organization, as an individual, we shall not make a difference. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Professor, for challenging us so deeply. He said we are not activists. And we all kept quiet. We are just what? Careerists. That is a tough one. When we are all saying we are human rights activists, but somebody saying we are not. But thank you, Professor. He says we are semi-relevant. I think he was wanting to be polite, but he says we are semi-relevant. So there is hope. Reimagine, re-strategize, consolidate. Thank you, Professor. Thank you, Anna. Please give them a big, big round of applause for challenging us, for speaking truth to power, and for giving us a lot of issues for food for thought. As they take their seats down to the plenary, I would now like to hand over proper to our chairperson, Mrs. Margaret Sekaja. Please come as we constitute ourselves into the 6th Annual General Assembly. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Professor, as you take your seats. Thank you. Yes, you're welcome to stay. Please, you're welcome to stay completely, and also please join me in thanking them as they go take their seats. Mrs. Sekaja, as you take the podium, I'd also like to recognize the presence of our auditors, from Jasper Semo Associates. Ernest, you are welcome. Please join me in welcoming Ernest Nsereko, Abechi, I almost called you Abe Muchibi, and Ndagire Mariam. Thank you very much for making that time. Chairperson, you want to speak from there, or you come here? Okay. Nkudugaliza.
Let's appreciate our speakers and the response they've given us, the advice. Professor Ndebesa and Annabelle, thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, over the years, you entrusted us to be on the board of directors. I would like the members of the board to come over there so that you can see the board which has been guiding, consistently being able to give advice. And this is the board which is here. Please come forward. All of you. Moses. Please go. God Efajara. Anti obaddeko. Anti kati twalonze. Babaddeko omumoji ba founder member. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, these are the people who have been steering the board, and I would like microphone, please, so that they can introduce themselves quickly and you get to know them. We are going to go through elections, and these are the people who have done the work for 3 years, and we should appreciate them. Are you there? Please start. Introduce yourself and your organization. Do you want to come here?
Hello? Okay. It was Africa learns about Europe. Hope you read that book. Habari zenyu. My name is Yona Wanjala. I work for Defenders Protection Initiative as a team leader. You're all welcome.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Robert Sempala. I work with the Human Rights Network for Tennis Uganda, and I deputize Madam Margaret Sekaja on this board. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Margaret Akudo Elem. I work with Lango Female Clan Leaders Association based in northern Uganda. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Okay. Bira Chuan Kanasa is my name. I work with the Center for Ideas and Innovation Incubation. Glad being here.
Afternoon, defenders. I know they said we're not really activists, but but we are. I believe so. My name is Claire Biarugaba. I work with Chapter 4 Uganda, and I'm also a very proud LGBT activist. Happy to represent on the board.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tabitha Netua. I'm a senior manager at Defenders. I'm here representing our executive director, Mr. Hassan Shure. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Moses Waringa. I work at the Uganda Law Society. Thank you all for coming.
Good afternoon. I'm an ex-official on the board. My name is Robert Chirenda.
Thank you very much, directors. Please sit down, take your seats. Thank you so much. We have just one more person to recognize. There's an echo. And Sheila is going to read. This is Catherine Anite from Small Media Foundation. They have also been helping the National Coalition, and we want to recognize them. Let Robert read out.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Distinguished delegates, we have a message of appreciation. The National Coalition of Human Rights Defenders Uganda wishes to express our deepest gratitude to Small Media United Kingdom for partnership and solidarity towards ensuring the protection of human rights defenders in Uganda. We appreciate your continued immeasurable support and treasured partnership. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are coming to the second part of our meeting, but I would like to tell you that I've delegated this responsibility to Mr. Moses Okwalinga from the Uganda Law Society. He's been part of the board representing Uganda Law Society. He's going to take us through. I would like to just apologize for not continuing, but due to other challenges, and he will be able to take us through for this session. And of course, as you know, when you work as a board, you work as a team, and you are ready to step in your responsibility at any time. So, Mr. Moses Okwalinga, please. I hand over to you. Thank you very much. And I want to thank all of you for your participation, for your commitment to the National Coalition. Without you, we would not have been able to achieve all this. So this is Mr. Moses Okwalinga from the Uganda Law Society. He's the Chief Executive Officer of the Uganda Law Society. Thank you very much. Over to you. Please give him a rousing applause. He's taking over from me.
Thank you very much, our chair. I'm stepping into very, very big shoes. But I'll do my best to keep the AGM afloat. Good afternoon, members. I know we are running a little behind time, but I will do my best to ensure that we run through the program as expected. All protocol observed. I would like to ask some of the members of our board to join at the high table. I know there are not very many seats, but it would maybe led by Yona, the treasurer, our vice chair, Robert, please join. We could, Nicholas, please also join. Sharon, please also join. Do we have enough seats? I would also like to recognize the presence of a member of our legal team, Geoffrey Triamsima. You're welcome. Thank you for gracing our AGM. Geoffrey is an ardent human rights defense lawyer, and we are proud to have you here today. Okay, members, we've had a slight revision to our agenda that was initially adopted, and I request that we allow the accommodation of the agenda. When you look, I hope everyone has an agenda. When you look at the back page, our session from 10:30, the one of the review of minutes, I would like the AGM to allow us to make a correction, and not to the minutes, but to the person presenting the minutes. The minutes will be presented by Sheila Ndomwire. Sheila is right here, and she's going to present it. She's going to present the minutes to the AGM. Sheila, please come and present the minutes. Members, I hope everyone received the pack. We shared the minutes earlier on email. The Secretary did share the minutes, so I hope everyone has a copy of the minutes in your pack. Thank you. For our social media platforms, Twitter and others, it's hashtag, hashtag AGA 2020. So please, we would like to be active on social media as well and give this AGM as much mileage as you can. Thank you very much. Sharon, over to you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Okwalinga. All protocol observed. I am called Sheila Ndomwire. I'm a partner at Kagwan Advocates, and I'm also here with my colleagues from Kagwan Advocates. I'm here to present to you the draft minutes of the National Coalition of Human Rights Defenders annual AGM, 5th annual AGM assembly that was held on 8th day of December 2021 at Royal Suits, Kampala. It was held under the theme, Standing Side by Side with Human Rights Defenders in Challenging Times. The members that were present, I hope you all have the minutes. So there is an Nchdr-A that is marked, Nchdr-A, it is attached, and it has a list of all the members that were present then. We have some members that were absent with apology. The chairperson, Margaret Sekaja, was absent with apology. Gerard Kacha was absent. And then we had someone called Bira Chiwanuka. They were also absent with apology. The meeting started with, the AGM, started with a prayer that was held by Jovia Masco. That is on page 2. There was an introduction of the partners. There was an introduction of the different partners of the coalition and in the members of the board, plus the secretariat. We can go to page 3. There were welcome remarks from the program manager. There were also welcome remarks from the chairperson of the board. I'm sorry I'm running through because we don't have time, so I'll stick to the key points. There was a keynote speech from the deputy head of the mission, head of development cooperation of the Royal Netherlands Embassy. That is on page 4. The agenda was duly adopted. We had communication from the chairperson. After the communication from the chairperson, there were reactions. I'll go straight to reaction 9, which is review of the previous minutes and the matters arising. When the minutes were reviewed, members requested that the minutes be shared days before the AGM. And they also requested that they attach the list of the attendance to the previous minutes. Today, that was done. If you notice that the minutes, there's action points and there's the action point and the person that is responsible. So the action point is that today you notice that your minutes have the attendance list and they were also available to you 14 days before the AGM. Then there was also a presentation of the annual report by the program manager. At page 9 now. In case you have any questions or are moving very fast, you can put up your hand and tell me. On page 9, after the presentation of the annual report by the program manager, there was a request to develop a database of the human rights and that have been trained in different, the human rights that have been trained in different areas, and also generate an HRD training curriculum. I'll ask the ED to give us information on that. I would need clarity from the ED about the human rights defenders that have been trained in different areas and whether the HRD training curriculum was developed.
We haven't developed the curriculum, it's in plan, but we've had several trainings for human rights defenders. Our plan is to consolidate some specific trainings into a curriculum that has been incorporated in our strategic plan for these 5 years.
Okay, that was as a result of the capacity building for the human rights developers. Then there is also the issue of the database. Was a database created?
We have a database for human rights defenders, especially those who have benefited from HRD protection, and a database for those that we have trained in different engagements. So that has been created.
On page 11, H. So there was a request that organizations are supported with equipment to enhance their safety and security. So there was a proposal to develop a criteria for equipment distribution. I'll need a report from the Secretariat on whether this was followed up and done.
Yes, we have equipped some organizations, especially those that were assessed. That was the criteria. We first do an assessment, and based on the assessment, those organizations that you've identified that are more critical for support are the ones we support, depending also on the funds that we have received. This was funded by CRD, and the fund has come to an end at the moment. So for those that we had funded then, that's where we ended following the assessment.
Thank you. Then still on page 11, protection and emergency response. There was a request for protection of human rights defenders, and so there was a point created to create awareness on the Human Rights Defenders Protection Fund. Was that created?
Yeah, on our website, you'll find it indicated. We always display our emergency support call numbers. In every engagement we do, any capacity building session, any UPR engagement, you will always see that number being displayed. We have also created a toll-free line that is already existent. And then we have a number right now that was shared by some human rights defenders where you can report any violation. I forget it, I don't have it offhand. I can get it later, but it is created for all human rights defenders to report whatever case they have. And then we have developed IEC materials, information, education, and communication materials that speak about the Protection Fund. So some have already seen them, others you will see them at a later stage when we distribute them. But on our website, on our social media platforms, you will find the links that show you the toll-free number that you can call.
Thank you. Still under the protection and emergency response, there was a need to review the protection model, taking into consideration changes in context, including mental well-being of HRDs. Was that considered?
It is in process in our strategic plan still that we are developing. It is in draft. We have incorporated that, and we are still trying to mobilize resources to review the entire protection model.
Thank you. Still considering the responses, if you're not following, that came from the members about the presentation that was made by the report by the program manager. So those are the questions that came up, and she's responding to them. We can move to page. We can skip the rest of the pages because there are no responses. So we can go to page 19. There was a presentation, sorry, page 20, the presentation of the treasurer by the board treasurer. There was a presentation by the treasurer. There were no points raised. Yes, please. Page 13. I must have missed that, sorry. Yes? Oh, sorry. There are two things I'd missed on page 13. Developing a TTWG charter and organize more meetings of the TTWG. Was that done?
Yes, the TTWG charter, we have identified a consultant who is in the process of developing the charter. It's not yet concluded, but they have started on the work.
Thank you. And then there was strengthening collaborative efforts on the HRD law with other partners. Was that done?
Yes, we've partnered with different organizations. There are meetings that have been held about the HRD law, but we're also still lobbying for resources. And if successful, you'll see more of it, more of our advocacy efforts in terms of pushing for the HRD law.
Thank you. Now we can go back to page 20, where we had a presentation of the treasurer's report by the board treasurer, and there were no highlighted remarks or points raised. We had the closing remarks from the chairperson, and he called for questions from the members to discuss. Then he also asked he thanked the secretariat, and the meeting ended with a prayer by Faith to Shabe. I would like to know if these are fully the meetings that, I mean the full knowledge of the meeting that took place on the 15th, sorry, that took place on 8th day of December 2021 at Royal Suits, if these are the actual minutes so that we can adopt them. If we can adopt them without any amendments. Captain. That is noted. Her name was omitted.
I would like to also look at the names. There is a name that is written badly. Muhumuza Abifodra Karim. Should be up to Karim.
Okay.
Otherwise, to the best of my knowledge as a person who was in attendance to this meeting, I think these were majorly what we discussed. And I would therefore love to move a motion to adopt the minutes.
Thank you.
My name is Tarema Albert, in Law School.
Thank you, Tanema. Can we have another person to second it?
Thank you, Madam. I also stand to propose the secondment of the adoption of the minutes.
Thank you. In case your name doesn't appear on the list of attendants, you can go to Edward Seru Chacha and he will sort you out. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Sheila, for making this quick and accurate. My apologies to our delegates for the omission and the misspelled name. I'm sure our Secretariat is going to correct that so that we have a clear record of last year's AGM. We have adopted and seconded the minutes, so I declare them minutes of our AGM 2021. 2021. Members, allow us move to the second part of the other part of our agenda. I'm quickly running through this with a presentation of the progress report of the Secretariat. Okay. And our program manager is going to take us through the report. Please try and make it brief. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen and others. I welcome you to this engagement. Again, my name is Sharon Nakanwaji, and I'm the Program Manager at the National Coalition of Human Rights Defenders Uganda. So it's going to be a PowerPoint presentation, and my team at the back. You ready? Okay. The whole of last year, 2021, our report really is based on the theme of persistence in a fragile civic space. Last year, 2021, was a unique year, not very easy as the usual. There were several things that were taking place. It was an election year. As the elections were taking place, then there was COVID. And around that time, there was a lockdown. Generally, everything you'd still be moving, and then something else gets you off guard. While we had started, I remember in January when we were reporting on elections and about to release the report, then there was the freezing of the DGF fund, so we halted it somewhere there. So it was a unique year, but irrespective of whatever took place, as a National Coalition of Human Rights Defenders, we carried on with the protection of human rights defenders as our priority. Our vision as the National Coalition of Human Rights Defenders is a society that upholds the dignity and right of every human rights defender. For those of you who are new to this engagement, our mission is to protect and promote the work of human rights defenders in a safe and secure environment through linkages with national, regional, and international like-minded entities. Those are our objectives. We have 4 core objectives: to create an avenue for collective response to threats against human rights defenders, to coordinate other civil society organizations in promoting safety and security of HRDs, to improve protection mechanisms, safety and security of HRDs in Uganda, individually and at organizational level, and to advocate and raise public awareness and profile of HRDs in the country. And we wouldn't have done all that we did last year without the support of different entities, and therefore I take this opportunity to acknowledge whoever was part of this good cause, especially our donors that had already been mentioned, by our board chair. Just for emphasis, I will read American Bar Association, Democratic Governance Facility, Dan Church Aid, USAID Civil Society Strengthening Activity, the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, the Civil Rights Defenders, Open Society Initiative of East Africa, the Royal Netherlands Embassy, GIZ, Irish Embassy, Small Media Foundation UK, Freedom House, Defend Defenders, and Innovation for Change. We therefore acknowledge the support of all these entities. We acknowledge the support of our technical support working groups, like the TTWG, and especially our board that guided and directed us throughout the entire year. We also want to thank our stakeholders, the Uganda Human Rights Commission, the Uganda Law Society, Uganda Police Force, Uganda People's Defense Forces, the Nchdr-U, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and other strategic stakeholders. We are very grateful to the Secretariat for putting in all the effort to be able to accomplish all this that I am going to present today. So the context of last year, I have already explained. We had COVID, we had elections, we had the suspension of the DGF, so you can imagine the environment, that is the environment we're operating under. Even as we tried to go into elections, there was a delay and deliberate denial of accreditation by most of the organizations, and some organizations like Chapter 4 decided to challenge some of these, but we all know what happened after that. So I'll dive deep into our core areas. There are basically 3 core. There's capacity building, emergency protection support, and then we have advocacy plus institutional strengthening. So under capacity building, we had 357 human rights defenders trained or whose capacity was built across the whole country in Uganda through different engagements. And this included equipment with certain IT-related instruments. 62 organizations were equipped. We had an orientation for journalists where there was a community of practice that was formed for journalists to begin to engage, and 56 of these journalists were in attendance. 82 NGOs and CBOs had their capacity built in legal compliance. We did organizational risk assessments in Busoga, Sebei, Karamoja, Bukedi, and South Buganda, where we reached about over 110 non-government organizations. 94 organizations were trained in monitoring, documentation, and reporting of electoral-related violences, and these in turn were able to participate in elections monitoring in their areas. 15 organizations in the Rwenzori sub-region benefited from an equipment retooling exercise. After we have assessed, then we equip them and retool them in accordance to their needs. So that is one of the quotes from our members, Charles Donaldson. I believe you can read. I don't think I have to go through it. He was appreciating and showing what he benefited through these capacity building engagements. The next is a training on the UPR that was being conducted by UPR Info. There's a risk assessment exercise being conducted in Karamoja by one of our staff. Ideally, they go to the organization and do a thorough risk assessment, and we come up with a report. And following that, we do the retooling and equipment where we are giving out different tools and materials for protection and other support. Yeah, that is still the same. We are equipping our organizations with personal protective equipment. Still with our partners, we are also equipping them with some sanitizers so that as they engage with us, we are still safe and they are safe. So our second element is protection and emergency response. And this includes a disbursement of the Urgent Protection Fund to support human rights defenders at immediate risk through the protection desk. And this includes several things, like when someone reports to us a case that they are at risk, we assess the need and then we give different services. If you want relocation, if you want medical support. So out of these, 180 human rights defenders received the small emergency protection grants. And those that I've mentioned included psychosocial, medical, relocation, safe transport. So 180, 128 male and 42 female, plus 10 others benefited from that emergency protection support. And following that, we also do solidarity visits for those human rights defenders who are most at risk. For the whole of last year, we conducted 59 solidarity visits to those places that have been highlighted in the brackets. We did we established 2 regional referral networks and 2 regional committees in Teso and Bukedi regions. Then we had a strategic research that was conducted on the protection of human rights defenders that are specifically under the LGBTI. 1 research was conducted, and then 1 rapid response meeting for electoral-related emergency response was undertaken. So that is one of the quotes from a member who benefited, Isabella Akiteng, who benefited from the protection support, especially during the election period. Yeah, that is also another member, Jovia, who also benefited from that support. But she was supporting so many other human rights defenders. So in her quote, she says, we were able to extend support on time to several people that experienced violations, and the team provided us with tips on how best to monitor, document, and report human rights violations. This is a skill we generally need in our daily work. That was under our protection support. So our third component is advocacy, networking, communications, and research. And towards enhancing this advocacy, research, and visibility, we engaged in several activities in strengthening coordination and networking, especially among our membership. Key to note was we'll split this into national advocacy, because this advocacy was done at different levels, up to international level. So for national advocacy, we started with engagements at the national level. For us to be able to submit the civil society shadow alternative UPR report, the engagement started here at national level. We held 5 regional consultative meetings on the UPR, where 243 organizations were reached nationwide. We also conducted 44 thematic cluster engagement meetings, where 422 organizations countrywide were in attendance. We had 22 thematic cluster reports submitted to the UN, and 1 national stakeholders report was submitted on the UPR to the UN Council. 1 CSO national stakeholders forum on the UPR with close to 200 organizations was conducted, and 1 national UPR in-country pre-session conference was held with our diplomatic missions here in Uganda. It was held here at Silver Springs. That is a quote from one of our members who says, it was my first time to participate in the UPR process. This is Jennifer by Tamwasa. I therefore appreciate the National Coalition of Human Rights Defenders Uganda for providing a platform, both physically and importantly virtually, for HRDs in the Albertine region working in the extractives industry to contribute to the EPR process. This was part of the regional engagements that we conducted. So we also held strategic donor CSO development partners roundtables, where we're still discussing issues of the EPR. In addition was the bilateral donor meetings, the strategic engagements with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Committee on Human Rights. And then we had a nexus between the EPR and the SDGs at the regional workshops that were held in the Albertine and the other regions. So that is a picture that is showing one of the regional engagements that was held virtually when we were under lockdown. On the same, we also had media campaigns on the Universal Periodic Review. And there were talk shows that were held, 5 of them on the UPR. Then we also did a documentary. That documentary was playing here at the beginning. We also conducted 2 researches that the coalition engaged in. Those researches are available. You can get them on our website. One is entitled Uganda Civic Space Index 2021, Clawback Clauses and Impunity Stifling Freedoms, and then Human Rights Defenders at Crossroads, Analysis of Civic Space Laws and their impact on the work of human rights defenders with specific interest on the period within the COVID-19 context. Those are available. You can get them if you want to make reference. Still under communication, I'm still under advocacy. We held 4 press conferences and 7 press releases. We also held our annual General Assembly last year under advocacy. And someone was asking about the HRD law. One of those photos is showing a delegation from the National Coalition of Human Rights Defenders in a meeting with the then Speaker of Parliament, Honorable Rebecca Kadaga, to persuade her towards taking on the passing of this bill. Okay, we also commemorated the International Human Rights Defenders Day. That's just a photo of what I was emphasizing. That's also a photo, the media engagements, a photo of the UPR. We also had partnership engagements. And so as I conclude, I'd like to look at the challenges. We had different partnership engagements. I have just decided to leave out some, but key to note, the Security Working Group meetings organized by Defenders Protection Initiative that we've been part of, benchmarking visits by the South Sudan Human Rights Defenders Network, business and human rights symposiums that we were part of, and under the staff institutional development, we held a training on FATIF, and there were board meetings that were held at 4 quarterly board meetings were held at, for the benefit of the National Coalition of Human Rights Defenders, and we facilitated the process of identifying the outstanding human rights defenders who were recognized last year at the HRD Day. And at the end of it, they will show you the photographs of those human rights defenders. It would be good for us to always recognize the people who were selected and who took on these awards. So what were some of the challenges? I will go through a few challenges. One which is common to us, the suspension of the DGF, because it was a constraint to our resources. There were many activities that were halted, that were being funded by the DGF. Of course, I had mentioned the outbreak of the second wave of COVID. I will not emphasize more. The diverse needs, protection needs of HRDs, of course, they were at an increase because of COVID and election-related issues. There was a delay and deliberate denial of accreditation, so we're not able to effectively do what we wanted to do during the election period. Those and so many others were some of the challenges. As I conclude, what are the lessons that we have learned along the way? There's need for us to continue building strong alliances, like has been discussed, for us to counter the issues that are coming against us. We need to embrace and invest in technology, especially following what we learned from the COVID-19 outbreak, where we had to work from home and yet reach out to the other members that we had to work with. We also noted that many more men, male human rights defenders, are more responsive to the coalition activities compared to women. So this is an issue to women and youth. This is an issue that we are focusing on in our current strategic plan. And also, of course, strengthen the Secretariat team to develop the technical capacities, their technical capacities to encounter the ever-changing trends in the sector and resource mobilization. The recommendations and way forward, I will just read just 2 recommendations. There's need to strengthen regional networks in each region by capacitating the regional networks with the necessary knowledge and materials to enable them become resource persons to their communities. That is one of our key recommendations. And the other recommendation is that we need to identify, that is the second last bullet, we need to identify areas of joint collaboration and partnership with a view of consolidating joint advocacy. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for taking time to listen to me, and you will see at the end the pictures of the HRD of the year. That was Penina Zanika, who won the award, and that concludes the end of our report and what transpired last year. Thank you for listening and for supporting the process, especially all our human rights defenders that we work with at the grassroots, at the national level. We are all together in this struggle, and we know that we will win at the end of the day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, the team from the Secretariat, for that elaborate report. Members, the report was shared. Forgive us for running through it. It was shared, and you have copies. We also had a copy placed on the organization website. So for those who can't access a physical copy, please access the same from our website. We also have an audience online. Our colleagues online, you're welcome. My apologies for not earlier recognizing you. I hope you're clearly following the proceedings. Members, due to the limited time, I will only allow one comment on the report and then ask the annual general meeting to receive the report. Does anyone have a comment on the report? Well, I believe the Secretary did a tremendous job. Thank you. Allow us go to the next item, which is a presentation for consideration and adoption of the Treasurer's report, and it will be presented by Mr. Yona Wanjala, our Honorary Treasurer. Mr. Wanjala, you're welcome. Thank you.
Chair, through you, before presentation of the audit statement, the adoption of the annual report.
Okay, as procedure demands, I hereby propose that this General Assembly adopts the report that has been presented by the Secretariat of the National Coalition for human rights defenders. Any seconder on this?
I do second the adoption of the report for annual general meeting.
Great. For purposes of the minute taking, Yona Wanjala is my name. Can we know the seconder's name?
This is Albert Taremba, Losco.
Thank you. Our chairperson, members of the General Assembly, our donors present, our wonderful auditors, and the legal team, allow me take the opportunity to do what procedures demand for the National Coalition, to present to you a statement of consolidated income and expenditure for the National Coalition of Human Rights Uganda for the year ended 30th November 2020, under your permission. Colleagues, friends, and partners in service for the Human Rights Defenders family, I present this report at the time when we are having donor changes in the funding streams, at the time when we are just jumping out but still in the COVID times, at the times when the global world is under serious turbulence of political and democracy deficit, and the time that all the donor attention has been taken by the Ukraine crisis. In all this, I'm going to present the statement in this format. I know in your report, it's on page 51, so feel free to reflect on the same. I will present the income, I will present the expenditure, but again in a comparative way for the year that ended 2020, in line with the year that ended 2021, which was our audit year. What you do not have in your report is basically the variance figures and percentage, which I'll be happy to present. Colleagues, in line with the incomes, our total income as the coalition amounted to 2,522,288,718. This was for the year 2021. There was an increment, if at all you look at the figure, because in the year 2020, we had 1,749,714,953. The increment or the variance in this was totaling to 772,573,765. This gave us a variance in a positive way of 44%. Can you clap for the coalition secretariat? While we received these monies, as the statement demands, we spent it as the secretariat to serve the constituency. Our expenditures are in line with the 3 areas of focus, which is basically protection, emergency response, capacity building programs and advocacy in human rights defenders issues. Expenditure on program cost totaled to 961,696,919. Again, as you reflect on the figure, this was a clear increase in expenditure in terms of the program cost compared to the 506,091,630 that was in 2020. On institution strengthening, we basically spent on organizational structures, on administration, and also pay the salaries or payrolls on the staffs who fix issues and who reach out to our constituency. And under the institutional strengthening, we basically spent 1,212,660,696. Again, this was an increment to what we spent in 2020 of 54,794,381. Thus, our total expenditure then reflects 2,174,357,615. That gives us a percentage of 23, in line with the variance. Where did we get this money? Who are our funders? What attributes to this figure? It's basically the funders who have been listed. If you looked at the page 53 of your report, we have a list of funders who contributed to the National Coalition activities. What you do not have again on that page is maybe the actual figures that I'll be happy to run through. From DGF, we're able to get 676,906,095. Again, there was a slight increment to what we got from DGF in the year 2020. We also got monies from the civil rights defenders to a tune of 49,798,024. We got, again, financial resources from Defend Defenders, 21, which to the total of 987,732. In 2021, we had not received money in that direction. So this is what I think are some of the areas that explain the increment. We also got a vehicle, Defend Defender vehicle, to the tune of 175 million. We got 2 grants from the Open Society of East Africa, one adding up to 87,841,600. Then again from the same donor to a tune of 360,156,400. The anonymous, or allow me mention it as Wellspring advisors, because sometimes the tags raise suspicion. to us in the world of money laundering and terrorism financing. From Wellspring Philanthropy Fund, we got 525 million. Membership subscription, you should clap for yourselves. Those who have subscribed, please. Would you want to clap? In the year 2021, we were able to get 6,962,500. Again, this was a very good increment. Of course, not the best, because the year that ended, 2020, we got 6,302,000. So this, again, to you, we highly appreciate. And we encourage many of us to honor the subscription. From the American Bar Association, we got 8,800,000. From the Danish Church Aid, we got 195,672,080. And from the East Westminster Institute, we got 70,583,593. From Freedom House, on the civic space, we got 138,752, 346. From Freedom House Emergency Response, we got 32,200,000. From the Small Media Foundation, we got 21,065,000. From the Strategic Innovation, we got 21,095,000. From that Church Aid, Digital Responsibility, we got or received 39,481,463. From DGF1, we had a balance of the project end totaling to 40,314,020. I'm happy to announce that the National Coalition Uganda registered an overall increase in income of 44%. Clap for the Secretariat. And out of this, we're able also to burn out, we call it financial burnout, of a percentage of 23%. Allow me again, in summary, proceed to just give a statement of the financial position for the National Coalition as at 30 November 2020. Apologies, I think this is not relevant. As procedure demands, ladies and gentlemen, allow me call our big brains behind this audit report from amidst, who helped us to compile, look at the figure, look at the data, do the verification here and there. I invite Mr. Ernest Nchdr-U, who is representing Jasper, the audit firm that conducted this, to help us give the opinion. Thereafter, I'll invite a member to propose the receiving of the report for further discussion. Ernest, have the floor.
Thank you so much, Treasurer. The August Assembly, my name is Ernest Nchdr-U from Jasper Sem and Associates. I just want to make a correction. We didn't compile. Our responsibility is to audit, to review, but it's the responsibility of management to compile, to prepare, and present fairly to us, for us to be able to confirm the figures that have been presented to us. I think the detailed audit report must have been shared, or it will be shared. The report where he has read from may not have the notes, but at least I was following closely with our audit report, which was certified on the 27th of April, 2022. We identify ourselves with those figures that have been read in summary, and we want to state that we believe that appropriate for us to provide a basis of our opinion. And in summary, we have audited the financial statements of this coalition for the period 1st December 2020 to 30th November 2021. And this comprised the statement of financial position as at 30th November 2021, the statement of receipts and payments, and the cash flows, and the notes to the financial statements, which include the summaries that are presented in the financial audit report. And in our opinion, the financial statements present fairly, in all material respects, the financial position of the coalition as at 30th November 2021 and of its parts for the year ended, and are in accordance with the general accepted accounting principles and the coalition reporting guidelines and the donor funding requirements. We've obtained all the information and explanations which, to the best of our knowledge and belief, were necessary for the purpose of our audit. We so say that proper books of accounts have been kept by the organization so as appears from our examination of those books. In summary, side, we gave a clean opinion from the reviews that we conducted for the period 1st December 2020 to 30th November 2021. I thank you once again for the opportunity to serve the coalition. This has been our third time to stand right before this August Assembly, and we thank you for the works that you've managed to continue doing as defenders. I thank you so much, and I come back to you.
Thank you, Ernest, for that wonderful opinion. This is a very big tool when it comes to fundraising. You have a dent in it, it becomes a very big challenge. May I now invite you to receive the financial report. Over to you. Please. Any seconder to that effect?
Okay, it's now working. Thank you. I'm Namasa Juliet Faith from Busoganet, and I'm proposing that we receive the 2020 financial report for further discussion.
Good afternoon. Stella Rosa Kutui, and I work with LandNet Uganda, and I second the reception of the minutes, the report, financial report, sorry.
Thank you, and over to you, Chair.
Thank you very much, our board treasurer. and our auditors for, as well as the Secretariat for preparing the report. Thank you for a job well done. I believe the AGM has the confidence that we've been able to safeguard the funds of our partners and the funds of the organization. Members, we are almost coming to a close, and well, allow me make two announcements. The first one, over the past year, about the past 1.5 years as a board, we've constantly been interfacing with the constitution of the organization. And we've occasionally discovered that there were instances where we had gaps in the constitution. We also have provisions that are contradicting each other. So as a board, we agreed that there was a need to amend the constitution. I come to the AGM with a prayer to this assembly to give us leave to amend the constitution and share proposed areas of amendment midway. We shall communicate the proposed areas of amendment. We've asked a team to review the constitution in partnership with our lawyers and advise on areas of amendment that we can later communicate to our members so that we address some of the gaps within the constitution. The assembly today, this is the prayer that we make to you, and we request that you support us on this. Are there any members supporting this motion for us to amend the constitution? We can as well get views from the membership on areas where you'd also want us to amend in our constitution. As we do the process, we are going to hand it over to a team which will come up with recommendations which we shall consider during the term and then share with you the proposed recommendations. So colleagues, we come with this prayer and we pray for your secondment of the same. My apologies. We hadn't yet closed the discussion on the audited books of accounts, and I open up the floor for at least 2 or 3 comments on the audited books of accounts. Yes. The 2 people at the back.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson and members. I want to talk about the Treasurer's report. I'm sorry you did not give us a chance to talk about it. Thank you very much for your presentation, Treasurer. But I don't know whether it is how it is done in our NGO world. Because when you tell us, when you show us your income, maybe we need to know what had you planned to get in that year? Or what had you planned even to spend? You are just telling us that we got an income of 2.5 billion. What if you had planned 5 billion and you only got 2? And we are here celebrating that you actually tried your level best. I don't know whether it is how it is supposed to be done. Maybe the auditors saw that in details, but as this house, we also need to know what had we planned for and what did they actually get. Since we are coming up with a strategic plan, I hope we are supposed to plan for what we are to get. And when we come here, you tell us, then we know that we have actually done a great job. Like now on membership, what had we planned to get from membership and what did we get? Did we achieve our target? That's what I had.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, the presenter.
Thank you. The lady who has just spoken exactly spoke what I wanted to say, although in another version. I'm called Vincent Okonera, coming from Busia, working with the Happy Childhood Foundation. Actually, in addition to that, we just need to know the performance in terms of realized revenue versus the projected income for 2021, so that you give us the leeway to clap for you in terms of performance. Otherwise, we don't know whether you performed or you did not perform. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm by name Arturo Abraham from the Populous Foundation International, Kitgum, Northern Uganda. We are quite aware that when a budget has been utilized in this manner, we need a lot of transparency. And I want to appreciate our two presenters, Madam Ogwang and Professor. As for the theme of today, it is very clear it's promoting accountability and transparency amidst the ever-changing civic space context. So, which means that the issues of transparency matters a lot, so that we attain the goal of our expectation. Now, this takes me back to the auditor. It's very good that we are having an auditor who made a small statement. There is this issue of saying that anonymous grants of over 500 million has been utilized, and it has been given anonymous. It means unknown. In the context, and as far as auditing is concerned, how do you audit something that you don't know the source from? Are we not really now going back, like what is happening in the government, saying that classified account? We have used this money from a classified source. We have bought, like the way the government have bought, they have been buying some other military gadgets, military equipment, that this money we have picked it from unclassified. Some of the members of parliament, they don't have any capacity of even inquiring where the money has been picked from. So this is where sometimes also, are we not really now going to behave again as if like the way the government, they do their own things? Is there real transparency? That's where my only issue, especially from the side of the auditor. But otherwise, in as far as the national coalition is concerned, I'm very happy and I'm very appreciative in all whatever anything which is actually being done across the country as human rights defenders. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, members. It's good to know that our delegates are following and reading the financial reports. So I hand over to our treasurer to guide us through.
Colleagues, friends, and families of human rights defenders, allow me to thank you for the critical eye. First of all, for receiving the report for discussion, because this is what good governance demands, but also to raise concerns in line with the report. I think the first concern was from my sister, Masiko, she's Jovia, that we needed to have given targets on what we had planned and targets what we received for us to desire even a clap. Now, again, in good governance, I'm happy that someone referred to the talks in the morning. There is what we call delegated function. And the delegated function, partly, is what you give the board. The board knows what was set as in the target and what was received. So the Augusta House is a very important house. You are very important people. We bring you what we would call refined pieces. And that's why in the presentation, you've seen we're comparing the year 2020 to the year 2021. And again, for the information, I said that the National Coalition received the overall increase of 44%. The increase stipulated was 772 million. And that alone, again, in the expenditure, we said that we were able to spend 23% of the total amount received. I thought I was really clear on that, but kind apologies if at all it did not come out. Can I proceed, then perhaps we invite more? Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Of course, point of information is given when speakers on the floor. Thank you, Chair. Dear delegates, a point of information. See, the presenter, treasurer, is stating that the information is known to the board members, board of directors. It is us, the supreme organ, who supposed we are trying to carry out an audit of that. So we need all to know the information, the projections she alluded to, but this is not supposed to be kept on to the board of directors. Thank you, sir.
I think it has been captured. The Secretariat should be able to share part of the audit report with all its members. Again, it is good practice in transparency and accountability just to flag it on the website as members have requested. Maybe the other aspect of anonymous, again, if members you've been keen, have said that Ideal Anonymous raises a red flag. And I said it's Wellspring Philanthropy Fund. The issue of lack of transparency would come in if even the money from Anonymous is not reflected in the report, but it's part of the percentage that has been spent upon, and it's actually captured in the report. Unless there is any other concern, I beg to take the seat, Chair. But I also invite our auditors to again to give some insight in line with the queries that have been raised. Thank you. Sorry. Please.
In summary, we appreciate all this feedback, and not to take most of the time, we interrogated this part of Anonymous, and the donor was very specific. You know, there are some of these funders who say, please, I don't want the left hand to know what I've given. But in the interest of this assignment, we put 2 dots there to clearly show that, hey, we have to disclose the name of this so-called donor. And that is why we made sure that Wellspring Philanthropic Fund, he comes out clearly. But at least the funder requested his name to be called Anonymous. So I think we can rest that one. And in the interest of the budget versus actual assessments, I had enough time to discuss with the board on how we would want this to be presented. For us who have the hard copies, all these donors, their attachments are there for how much did we budget per donor and how much did we spend. That's why on the side of our detailed income, the last category shows a negative on DGF of 40 million shillings, because what was budgeted on DGF1 resulted in a return which was returned as we moved to DGF2. So some of these other details we can spend here, but as you receive the hard copies, you'll be able to enjoy referencing with some of these numbers and how they moved. That's why we even went to the cash flow statement for us to particularly clarify on the movement between those years. But I'm around for any other clarification. Thank you.
Thank you very much, the AGM. As undertaken by our treasurer, we shall upload a copy on our website for further reference and discussion. Okay, please.
Thank you so much. I take the honor to applaud the Secretariat for the kind responses. And on that note, if it's okay, I would request that you allow me move a motion to adopt the financial report with amendments. My name is Katoko Sylvia Damba. I work with the Service Center in Chibuku.
Thank you. Do we have a second of her motion?
Thank you, Bwana Presenter. I'm standing again to second the motion as moved by the proposer, but still with a request that some of us, the delegates in this annual General Assembly, most of us are laymen that cannot easily interpret. I'm sorry, that is my presentation. Then too, I was requesting that you avail that report on our emails than accessing it from the website. So I second the adoption.
Okay, thank you very much, the Assembly. We've taken note of the comments and the proposals, and we undertake to share the same via email and also upload a copy on the website. We have adopted the books of accounts with amendments for the record. Thank you very much. Before I move back to the next item, allow me to invite the Vice Chairperson of the Board to make a quick presentation to our board members. Robert, you're welcome.
Thank you indeed very much, Moses. Esteemed members of the topmost institution of the coalition, thank you for having kept with us since morning. My name is Robert Sempala. I deputize Madam Margaret Sekaja, who has since stepped out. So we're going to perform a very simple function of awarding these esteemed members of the executive board of the coalition. They have done and performed so diligently that it's only befitting that we award them in your very presence. So I'll invite the Secretariat to come up with presents or gifts that we're going to give to the members of this board. We also have an election today. We do not know if they're going to assume, repossess their positions or not, so it's only prudent that we give them before that news dawns on to them. For those, especially for those that might march out. For those that will stay in, it's obviously going to be a continuation, and always award with them. So, Robert and Tim, can I have the awards come our way? And I also will invite the ED to come and read out the names of the people that we are going to give awards before we can go into any other activity. So we're here waiting, but also I'm very happy about the discussions around the audits. They're normally very sensitive and controversial issues when it comes to these assemblies, but I'm glad that our team, our members, have already done it good justice. We are going to share the same on your respective emails, we still will discuss a bit about the website, because the website is accessed by even non-members of our assembly. So we would like this to be a preserve of our members who are even duly paid up, that qualify to come to this General Assembly. So we can assure all of you members that you will be getting these ones in your respective emails. So keep checking and keep giving us feedback whenever you realize there is any for the Secretariat to consider and our auditors. So thank you indeed. Somebody, Yona here, I said he needs to gather enough courage and energy to carry his present. So we delay it a little bit. It's for his sake that we are going to delay the awards. Thank you so much. Now we're going to move on to the next item on our agenda. Thank you indeed.
Okay, thank you very much, the Vice Chairperson of the Board. Members, I come back to you with our earlier request as the board for seeking leave from the House to allow us amend the Constitution, go through a process, a consultative process of engaging a team of experts to advise us on areas of the board. And we request that you give us leave to begin the process of amending the Constitution during the next term. I leave it to the House for any secondment. Yes, the gentleman.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm Humuza Samuel, an HRD from Uganda District. I want to thank the Coalition for the good work. You're doing a very good job. I'm proud of you. Sir Chair, I wish you could be clear in your explanation, because we have come here on business. And it is important that you make us appreciate whatever you're telling us, because you're telling us of amending a constitution. What do you want to amend? I think the board has the powers to make recommendations, even to get those consultants, and they make recommendations. Then you come and present to us something clear where it is that we wish to amend this from this to this. We want to touch here, we want to touch here. Then we can make informed decisions, I opine.
Okay, thank you. Any other contributions?
Thank you. To me, I do not see, I'm called Vincent O'Connor once again. I do not see the need, the urgency of amending the Constitution, apart from just being told that you plan or you intend or you want. But as a General Assembly, I feel there must have been kitchen work that should have been done by the delegated body, and that's the board, to which we have given the powers to do business on our behalf, to tell us the need of amending, what has changed, why do we want to amend it from this to that, so that we appreciate and work with you. Otherwise, just to come up with a blanket statement to say we want to amend the Constitution, it leaves us worried and suspicious. Thank you.
Yes, I'm here. Yes, Chair.
Members, I'll allow one more.
No.
The lady over here. Thank you.
That's a critical thing. We need to deliberate on it so much.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sarah Tamaleauma from Witupe, Gender and Rights Initiative, Lira. I want to deviate a little from contributions of the other two speakers, that we need to be given what you intend to amend. But I think it's prudent enough that we have to appreciate that we have been consulted to carry out, to give permission to carry out these amendments. Maybe the gap that we need to give to those going to amend the Constitution is to give us time to go and interact again closely and give suggestions on what we also intend to amend, to be amended, and give feedbacks, so that when you are taking leave or we are granting leave for this, you're sure that what you're coming out with is as well our contributions. Thank you. That's my submission.
I think, Chair, what is alarming is the issue of just bringing something on the agenda and it was not there. Then it too, a mayor talking of words without a written statement about it. That is what should be a cause of alarm. So we need to be procedure that should have been adopted on the agenda. At the same time, you submit a written statement towards your proposal as the board.
Look, I'm wondering, I thought that request is supposed to come from the new board. Why is the old board requesting for that amendment?
Members, thank you very much. Thank you very much. We've taken into considerations the concerns, the views of the Assembly, and us as the board, we shall take it back and do adequate preparations and come back to you at our next gathering. Thank you very much. Members, I would seek your indulgence. On the program, we had decided to go for lunch and then come back for elections. I request that you bear with us and not leave the Assembly, so that after lunch, you come back for elections. Is that okay? Okay, thank you. We shall try and have a very quick lunch. If we could work within, let's say 45 minutes to 50 minutes, so that we are here on time and we allow our colleagues who are from distant places to be able to travel back on time. Thank you very much. We've briefly adjourned for lunch, and I hope to see you back here in 50 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Let's go for lunch. We have the coupons. We'll be back at 2:30. For the up-country delegates, I'm meant to understand that we shall be, or we have already supported your night. So no need to rush. We shall provide a stipend, subsistence for your night accommodation and meal. So let's rush and then be back at 2:30. Thank you very much, Chair.